Hello homesteaders. This is part of our Ukraine series, but it'll also serve homesteads anywhere. One of the things that we've always done is use a lot of salvage materials, obviously because it was very inexpensive and we always needed to keep our price down. When it comes to the Ukraine, they're going to have a lot of stuff that needs to be salvaged. They're not going to have a lot available for purchase, so salvaging is going to make a lot of sense for them. What we've tried to do is, as we've learned to use salvage materials, we've realized some of the strengths and weaknesses. I'd like to point them out to you. This is actually a new building. It's got some salvage materials in it. It's being built here on our property by one of our young skulls full of mush. And what we did is we started out with just a regular framed 2x4 wall, the original wall, on 24-inch centers. Now normally I wouldn't build on 24-inch centers. I'd use 16s, which would make a stronger, tighter wall. But the way we're going to do this, we're going to have a very strong wall, and that saves us lots of material. When we go salvaging, we can get lots and lots of short pieces of standard material, whether it's 2x4, 2x6, whatever they use to build in your particular area. We can get lots of short pieces, anywhere from 12 inches on up to 4 feet is very easy to get. To get the full 8-foot pieces, that's harder and a little rarer. So that's why I try to use as few of the long pieces as necessary. We're going to salvage all the pieces, and then we're going to show you a way to use them. So we built a 2x4 wall, in this case 2x4s, and we put them on 24-inch centers. That's about going to use as little wood as possible. But then we want to do something else too. We want to maximize the insulation that we can use in these walls. And I found that by increasing the insulation by almost double from a typical 4-inch wall. Typical 4-inch wall will have an R19 value, but we can get up to 7.5 inches, and wow, what a difference it makes in the comfort in that building, in the ability to stay cool in the summer and warm in the winter. So the way we achieve that is we use all these little pieces here, and these are just 1 foot long, as a spacer. And that gives this wall, this sheathing here, this is the outside wall, gives this sheathing enough support so it's not wiggling on you and waving when the product is done. Now you notice this is a piece of salvage material, and we could have used a 4-footer there just as easily, because this is not structural. In other words, it's not going to weaken or strengthen the building. It's just a place where we're going to attach the inside wall on here. And there's going to be one more up here, and it creates another 3 inches on the wall. So that gives us 3 inches plus 3.5, 6.5 inches in here instead of 3.5 inches. That makes a big difference in your insulation. And it uses up all these little pieces that you would normally throw away or use in the stove. Now, in this case, I use a lot of this material because it's a kind of a recycled material in itself, and that's OSB, Oriented Strand Board. This is 7/16 material. It is, I have to buy it, at Home Depot or something, but it's very, very strong, and it's relatively inexpensive. Right now, at $11 a sheet, that makes it one of the least expensive sheathing materials available. So if you have these products that you can buy, this makes the whole project go very quickly. And this can be used on the walls and also on the ceiling. On the floor, we use an OSB product, but it's 3/4 of an inch. It's a little more rigid, so the floor isn't wavy on you. One of the advantages of this building is that it's going to be movable. In America, we have lots of people that buy sheds, and it's such a big business that they have a special trailer that they designed for hauling these sheds. And I've built these small houses so that they'll fit on those special shed trailers. We put skids on the bottom, and the guy with the trailer comes, and this whole section here will be pulled right up onto his trailer. And he has a rig with a big enough truck that he can actually haul this safely. I really kind of stay away from putting the houses on wheels. I started out putting them on wheels. That was for another reason, trying to get around building codes and such. But I was really, as I hauled that down the road, it really made me nervous, because most people will try to pull a big heavy thing like this. Mine ended up weighing about 7,000 pounds. They'll try to pull that with a half-ton pickup truck, and that's just looking for a wreck. So I'm much happier putting it on skids and then hiring somebody with the proper equipment that can do it safely to pull this whole house onto their trailer and deliver it where you're going to put it. Now, most people are never going to move this house more than once or twice. So it makes sense to pay somebody to keep it safe. This also just sits on blocks. It makes it real easy because you don't have to make a big heavy-duty foundation. We're also going to show you here, this small house setup is going to have 3 different pieces. Each one will be easily carried on a trailer, and the 3 will be put together in a U shape. We have 2 of the pieces going up now. You have this one here, and then you can see over here, you've got the second piece. And the third piece will go right here. So it makes a U and gives plenty of room for a small family. That is kind of the basis of using salvage material. Some of the things we've learned to save as much as possible, be able to use the short pieces, and we're going to tell you more about the particular building that we're putting together. This is very common for a tiny house size. It's 8 feet wide and 16 feet long. Now, I know that's pretty small. It's 115 square feet exactly, but it's enough space if it's used very carefully, and we've learned to do this by constructing these, to have a place where you can take a shower, have the toilet inside, have a little kitchenette, and have a place to sleep. Very basic housing, but if you are coming out of a situation like the folks in Ukraine, it's going to be really handy to be able to build something very quickly and get a decent roof over your head and a place that'll keep you warm in the winter and cool in the summer. Many of you probably wonder, when you write a comment after having watched one of our YouTube presentations, does anybody actually read that comment? Well, I read every single one of them, and I really cherish them. In this case, Dragon Slayer wrote to me after he saw the presentation on building with used materials and salvage materials, and he pointed out to me that I had missed lots of details. So I'm happy right now to read his letter and read my response to his letter, which will clear up a lot of things. And I so appreciate getting this kind of input from you folks. This is a community of people who are striving to be resilient and God-reliant. And as a community, we're stronger than we are as individuals. So I really appreciate your input. Here's what Dragon Slayer had to say. I'm not sure how you strengthen the entire structure with 2x4s at 20 inches on center. I hope it's not the OSB. Snow load on the roof, wind load on the structure. Without the weight and the entire thing being tied down to a concrete foundation, I'm thinking a U-shaped building on skids will catch the wind, especially tornadoes, versus at least poured concrete post of some kind. I'm building a small home on my farm and also using many things acquired from the dump, as well as my own timber. However, I'm putting it on a poured concrete basement using embedded lag bolts, 2x6s on 16-inch centers, and a 1 to 12 pitched coated sheet metal roof. I want this building to last at least as long as I do. However, if you have a better way to strengthen it, please do tell me. I'm doing this on my own, totally off-grid. Well, that's Dragon Slayer's comment, an excellent one. And here's my response to him. Dear Dragon Slayer, the structure in question has 24-inch centers. And yes, the OSB provides great strength to the structure. It's similar to a car with unibody construction. The individual parts don't have the required strength, but when those parts are assembled, the resulting structure is very strong. That's why we glue and nail and screw the OSB to the structure. As to snow loads and wind, we have plenty of both. We have 10 structures on this property built by myself over the last 22 years. During that time, we have had snow drifts as high as 15 feet. The wind out here on the prairie is constant. A few years ago, we had a bomb cyclone event with straight line winds of 134 miles an hour for 4 hours. We rarely have tornadoes. While many of my neighbors have suffered great wind damage, we have never had any, thank God. On my tiny houses, I often make a fence post hole, fill it with concrete, and chain the small structure down. Your idea of using concrete is fine. I'm sure that the structure will probably outlast you. What we are designing are movable structures that can be built quickly and inexpensively. I am confident that these structures will outlast the people who build them. Thank you again for your excellent letter. You have helped me realize that I left out some very important details. I'm going to add your note and my response to the YouTube presentation. Well, there you have it, friends. I am not perfect. I do sometimes forget to put in important details, and I really depend on you to let me know what you think. Thanks again for viewing, and thanks for being part of our channel. Is going to have 3. The way you work, it'll take you a month. Hurry up! You know, I got no time. Short timer. I'm ready for my close-up. And Mr. Mouse, who is our quality assurance engineer. Thank you.